Hey Pussinet, new little video. This one is for a contest, the Equip to Endure premium page, and I didn't feel like typing, so here we go. So it will be posted on my channel, but as well as I'll put it on the Equip to Endure. But I thought it would be good for the viewer of my channel too to hear. And the question was, what does the wilderness skills brings to you? And I'll do kind of a philosophical response to it because this is pretty much what it brings to me. A little bit of history of how I got into that. I'm getting more serious in the last, let's say, 2 years about it, but always got some interest in it. And actually, the reason I'm a nurse is partially because of that. Back when I was in college, I was doing human science, so I was going towards to be a psychologist, and um, I was doing a lot of outdoors, and I always wanted to know what to do if something goes wrong, and so I started to take first aid course, and in 8 hours, and then I've learned how to put a basically a coin and call 911, and I'm like, that's not enough. So I went a step above and I started to do ski patrol, and then I joined the first aid team. Um, back at the college, and next thing you know, I'm a nurse, and now it's going to be 14 years now. 14 years, been doing some critical care with it and flying and everything. And so it brought me to this, but it's interesting because now I'm kind of doing this big circle because I'm going back towards what I want. And why I always got interesting in that stuff is the whole journey that it brings you. The skills themselves are very useful, and obviously in what you do and stuff. But what I like is the discovery that I had, and as you can see behind me, got a pretty big library, and most of it are either medical books, outdoor books, or search and survival books. And to the discovery of always trying to find more and more and more and more, it became interesting because I kind of saw that it's not only about skills, it's about a mindset, it's about how you see the world and how it changes as well. One of the greatest book I think I read was not so much a book about skills, but it was called The Survival Personality, and I'll try to put the link down. And the reason why this book was so amazing and is out of print, I think now, and so you can find it like on Amazon's and stuff. And that's why I think I bought mine, which I give to someone else now. I always do that. Try not to keep my book, just give it away so that more people can think like me. And yeah, that book really like brought back on how some the survivor people see the world differently. He interviewed a bunch of people that survived disaster, rapes, Holocaust, and things like that, but they all had certain type of stuff. And all those skills, that's what it brought to me, I find, is that I see things differently. Like, for example, now if I go in a store, um, I'm like, oh, that I could make fire with it. Oh, this would be good for this and this. And it's this beautiful journey. And actually, I'll put a quote that I really like from Paulo Coelho, which wrote the book that I just love, which is called The Alchemist. And I always, and in that quote, he talks about people that creates and gardener. And I always wanted to be a gardener because life is more interesting when you're a gardener. And I find in the survival world, this is what it brings back. It brings you back to not only the past of the history and the things that we should keep learning and stuff, but as well as brings us to a journey of discovering of ourselves, of our limits, of how we can push our limits. I read in my journey again through like all those skills and everything. And always trying to master more skills. If we ever master stuff, but trying to be more efficient, should I say, about skills, is that I read the book on the endurance, which was the Shackleton amazing journey through Antarctica, the survivals and stuff, which is just like blows your mind about how they do. But it's just amazing that some human beings can go through that stuff, and uh, and this is pretty much why I do that kind of stuff, and to be able to chat with people and to be able to talk about it, and it's not so much about getting the fire as actually missing the fire for 40 times and then finally getting the fires for the first time. I find it teach you about things in your own life. For example, I know on the Equip to Endure, I was talking about that I was in Quebec when the ice storm hits, and it was quite amazing to see a lot of people like literally feeling hopeless and not knowing what to do because suddenly electricity was out. I mean, it was out a lot. For some people up to like a month and 2 months, and I lost electricity. Or we lost electricity for about 2 weeks. But as I was doing winter camping in my home, other people were literally in shelters and struggling and requesting stuff like, "Oh, we need a toothbrush and everything." Well, they had all that stuff in their home, but they couldn't go back or something, and so it was very amazed on some of the people how they were doing, and so but how you perceive this life, how you perceive this reality, how it was changed because I mean at the time I was not doing a lot of preparation and stuff, but I was still doing a lot of outdoors, and outdoors kind of prepare me for that kind of stuff because you go and suffer in nights. Countless nights I did suffer in Adirondacks because too much water end up in my tent, or I did a mistakes or something. I'm all wet and everything, and or it's -30 and I'm outside trying to survive, and because it becomes a certain survival even if you don't know as much as, or if it's not like planned survival or anything. It's still a game of survival where you're trying to beat your own mind and your own limits, and you discover things about yourself that you don't even realize, and you become a different person as well. And through my career as well as in the not in the outdoors, but in the medical field where you're faced with deaths and people striving through difficult time, you're suddenly becoming able to help someone like this. It's just an amazing feeling. That's why I do what I do. It's not so much for the money or whatever that I do it. Obviously, you have to pay the bills at one point, but it's um, this able to make somebody smile in a time of difficulty is just an amazing feeling. It cannot be even described, and to know the skills that we do and the skills that we're trying to always learn, it brings this sense, because in a difficult time suddenly this knowledge that will come out from our practice and from me will be able to maybe put a smile on someone in a difficult time, and will in the journey of it will have made us a much better person as well, to appreciate little moments, like when you're dry right now and I have electricity and I got food and I got everything. While when you practice your skills and stuff, you appreciate them way more when you're like, you're at -30 trying to put like boots that are so frozen that you literally have to make your feet like trying to wrap it inside because it's leather and it's cold and it's frozen and everything. Well, now it's like you're like, you appreciate stuff. And this is why I do the skills I do. That's what those skills brings to me. And it's this journey, and it's not so much just skills per se. Obviously the skills are a great gift from that journey, but even if the skills for whatever reason wouldn't be there, just even to miss it, to not be, let's say I wouldn't be able to start any fire, but just even to try to succeed in it brings me amazing journey, and change my mindset on a lot of things, and help me in pretty much in a lot of stuff that I do in my own life and in my own career, which becomes my life as well, and as a person then and stuff, and it makes me aware of my environments and everything. And so now when I go, for example, in the mall or something, I'll be like, oh, I could use this for that, or I could use this for that, or I'm in the washroom, it's like, oh, I could. If something would happen right now, I could do this. And I remember when I started to learn first aid, I was doing that a lot. I'm like, okay, if somebody choked right now, what would I do if somebody would suffer? And so you put yourself in scenarios, and it becomes like you view the world a different place. It doesn't seem so scary anymore. It doesn't seem so hopeless. And suddenly now, when you have like a big problem, like I don't know, or what we think is our big problem, sometimes is not that bad. Like I was reading an article of this woman that fell out of it, literally fell. The airplane just broke down and kind of fell down as she was crashing. She ended up being by herself in the jungle on her seat. Well, suddenly you're late for your meeting doesn't seem so big as this lady that has to survive in the jungle with nothing else than whatever she had on her while their seat was falling down from the air, right? So this is what happens, is that you find like you compare stuff, and you're like, I can, if I'm able to, survive 5 days without food and anything like this, I can go through that stuff and everything. And it pushes us to, even in a non-survival situation, to survive and thrive. And so that's what it brings me to it. So if you're not a member from Equipped to Endure yet, please go so and do so. Great website and stuff. And I talk to you soon.